Hi, everybody. Welcome to the PowersShift podcast. I'm your host, Hilary Powers, and I'm with my dad.
Jay Powers. Nice to meet everybody. Welcome.
So, on today's very first episode, we want to share a little bit about who we are and why we started the PowersShift podcast. So, Dad, how about you kick us off?
I'm 68 years old, and I was born in 1955 in Fairbanks, Alaska, to missionaries. We moved several times when I was young, and we ended up in Oklahoma in the 60s. And I always had the ability to talk to people, or weirdly, they could talk to me. I remember being 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, people bearing their souls to me. Adults would talk to me and tell me their deep, dark secrets or their frustrations. And so I've always had this ability to connect. That, along with just loving knowledge and learning and relationships, is how I've been. I'm a father of 4 millennial-aged children. I've been married to Laurel for 42 years. We have a good marriage. Been through a lot of pain in our lives and some trauma, but we've overcome that, and we've stayed together, and she's my best friend. As far as my career goes, I was in the corporate world for 26 years. I worked for a large Fortune 100 company. Part of my job description was coaching people on their careers and career development and emerging leadership type of input. And so as I was getting ready to retire from that, I discovered that I really liked the idea of coaching, and coaching was on the horizon as a new profession. There were coaches, but it wasn't really well known at the time. I went to school at the University of Texas and got my executive coaching certification. It's postgraduate work, 120 hours, and started coaching in 2016 outside of my career. I've been doing that since then. Love that. And as I said, my focus has been young leaders, particularly millennials and Gen Zers, but anyone that wants coaching or needs input from somebody else, collaboration, that kind of thing. So that's it.
Sweet. Thanks, Pops.
Mm-hmm. It's your turn. Tell us about yourself.
I'm 36 years old, and I am also, like you, a lifelong learner, and I've always naturally been a curious human. We grew up moving all the time, so I've lived all over the United States, and at the time, I hated those moves. It was really hard to transition. I am one of 4. I have a twin sister, an older sister, and a little brother. I love the outdoors. I'm passionate about the environment. Most of my career has been in education, and I'm really passionate about my healing journey, something that I started in my mid-20s. I hope to be able to share strategies for healing. It's a process. It's something that you don't just heal overnight and then it's over. A year ago, I decided to quit and leave my job and move across the country back to where family was, which was something I was definitely missing, and started my own business. I want to dive into why we started PowersShift podcast, Dad. Tell me the why behind the what for you.
One of the reasons was about 18 months ago, I was talking to a young friend of mine, and he suggested we do a TikTok video. And I knew about TikTok, but I didn't really know much about it. And so in about 5 minutes, I told him the story of how Laurel, my wife, died right in front of me one night when we were watching a movie, and stuck it out on TikTok. And then the next morning I looked at TikTok and we had 84,000 views. And he was looking at it too. He was going, "This is not normal." Ultimately, that video has 3.6 million views on it now, and out of that came 25,000 followers. And I know that everybody's not just waiting with bated breath to hear what we have to say, but what it got me to thinking about is based on my coaching experience, my ability to connect, and that it's a gift, and I know that the place where young people are, and not only young people but people my age, where there's sometimes not a lot of hope, or they don't know how to apply lessons they've learned in life. I've said maybe we could do something on TikTok or other social media where we can give people some real live applicable solutions to their everyday issues. And so that was the start for me. How about you?
This whole project we're taking on right now is just been a long time coming. I think for me, I have a lot of reasons. Simply, I want to capture these moments with my dad. I'm in a very unique place in my life where I spent the last close to 20 years being away from family and seeing y'all, once or twice a year. And I've had the privilege this year and the honor to reconnect with y'all and get to see you every day and live with you in the sense of like we're not just seeing each other.
How's that been?
Woo, actually like doing life with y'all.
Yeah.
I want to archive this for me and for our family and have these for years to come, to be able to show your great grandkids.
Yeah. It's interesting that you've wanted to do this, and we've done versions of it in the past, but I did it with my father before he died. Mm-hmm. And we have hours of interviews with him that you guys can watch and have watched and will watch. And I agree with that. It's a legacy and it's an inheritance that you leave behind. Yeah.
Another reason, too, is that just based on our relationship and how we've grown and evolved, that has shaped my life. I know how fortunate and blessed I am to have that. I know not everyone has the kind of relationship that we do. And it's special and it's deep and rich and meaningful. And so I hope to be able to let people in on that and show that it's not pretty, it's messy. I'm learning a lot about who I am in the sense of how I interact with others, especially the people who can trigger you the most, your family, your blood. Can we instill hope and can we lead by example?
Yes.
Our family, we are all over the map in terms of politics, lifestyles, faith, all of that. And at the end of the day, we have all somehow, by the grace of God, miraculously said, okay, we're going to commit to be a family. Yeah. And I think that there's been times in my life where I have felt myself drifting, and I had to make a decision. Am I going to face this and build this relationship with y'all? That's been something worthy of celebrating with our family. The fact that through all of our crap, we're still a family and we still love each other and we're still our ride or dies. No matter what happens, we're going to stick together.
We've learned to have respect for each other. We had to work our way through that. My children are the kinds of people and individuals that I would want to hang around with even if they weren't my kids. And I had to do the same thing with my father. Now, my father was from World War II era. Men at that time were not very good at connecting. I always knew my dad loved me, but he didn't really know how to connect. As I became a father, I wanted to learn to connect with my children.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think y'all decided somewhere along the ways to be brutally honest and open with us. As we all matured and grew, we started to see the result of when you do share, when you are vulnerable with somebody, it opens the space for others to do the same and to see each other, to see you as a person, not just as my father, but as a human being living this life, alongside me, but having to navigate your own struggles and hurdles. And we've all been able to give each other that space to grow.
It's one of our lifelong mantras, if you will, is grow or die. Having a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset is really important. I think that's something that we've done too, is we chose to work through our problems. You don't have to do that. Nobody's going to make you do it. Another thing I learned when I got married 42 years ago was how selfish I am. Nobody wants to admit it, but it's not a 50-50 thing when you have a relationship with somebody. It's 100%, 100%. Everybody needs to give everything to those relationships. And we didn't always do that. We've had to learn. It's hard to have those kind of ideas when your brain is only 10 years old or 15 years old and it's got another 10 years to grow.
We're on our own spiritual journey as well, and that is a very vulnerable, raw thing to...
Makes people nervous.
Yeah. And it can be heavy, and it can be dark, and it can be intense and serious, but how do we also sprinkle in the laughter and the fun? That's something the Powers
Joy.
clan...
Sure.
Humor is important, especially when you're on a path of discovery.
I'm thinking about my grandmother's funeral.
Gigi or...
Yeah.
Or
Someday we'll tell you about it, but it was hilarious. She would have laughed. I think the biggest thing is are we leaning into relationships? You know, people are alone. People are isolated. We've abused this whole thought, but it's still true. Is the pandemic caused a lot of pain and isolation. And a benefit of that is you can kind of see who you really are and where you need to grow. We can be upset about that, or we can use it as a growth opportunity. So how are we doing that? One of the goals we have is when we do talk about solutions or about things that you can do in your life, we want you to be able to turn the computer off, your phone off, and literally get up and go do some of the things that we're going to talk about. One of them, for example, is just remembering to breathe. Everybody from the desert fathers in the 3rd and 4th century who were living in the African desert did breath prayers. When you're having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, one of the key things they teach you is to breathe. So
we're so excited to be here. We're excited to grow with you and be on this journey with you. I'm excited to watch this unravel.
Same. Or ravel.
Ooh. Tune in to the PowersShift podcast. You can find us on YouTube for the full episodes. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok, and that's just PowersShift with 2 S's. You can also find us on any place where you get your pods. Apple, Google, Spotify, you name it, we'll be there.
Thank you.